Hi everyone, my name is Haley Robb, and for the past year I've been living, breathing, eating, sleeping sponsored content. I'm excited to discuss my CET with each of you today. And to start, I've titled my project, The Age of the Advertorial, Incorporating Sponsored Content into the Newsroom. I discovered sponsored content my junior year when I was chosen as Cherry Creative's second creative director. Cherry Creative allowed me the unique opportunity of combining both my passions and previous experience in marketing and journalism into one position. Sponsored content is a hybrid of editorial and promotional content. It's embedded advertising or content that takes the shape of its environment, whether that be digital or print publications. Native advertising or sponsored content or paid content or branded content doesn't have a concrete definition. And no matter the term, they're all trying to achieve the same goal: increase revenue and engage consumers through unique storytelling techniques. The issue with sponsored content, though, is that some readers and some professionals think it is deceiving by blurring the lines between news and advertising. The purpose of this project was to provide recommendations for student media organizations planning to implement their own branded content studios. A little bit of background on sponsored content. In 2020, native advertising was expected to account for more than half of US digital advertising spending. The industry is expected to total $402 billion by 2025. The success of this storytelling format is due to the consumer movement online. And it's not new. Sponsored content has always been around, just in different formats. Television and radio were among some of the first, with product placement in titles like Texaco Star Theater, and the Supreme Court has been a major reason why sponsored content and commercial speech have limited protection under the First Amendment. Some trends we're seeing in sponsored content are that there are three primary channels for sponsored content to be spread: through content feeds or websites and news sites, social feeds like social media and messaging applications, and product feeds like websites such as Amazon and eBay. Almost every major publisher has its own branded content studio now compared to the dozen in 2013, and there's been a shift to the consumer-first mindset, meaning that readership habits and consumer interests are the first priority. Clear disclosure and distinction will also be a major issue to address moving forward. The second portion of my project was a look into sponsored content, so taking a look at models across the country that have already implemented sponsored content. I'm going to highlight just a few of the professional and student media outlets that I interviewed for my project. Professional media outlets all operate very similar to an advertising agency, with positions ranging from creative directors, writers, photographers, illustrators, developers, you name it. The key difference was in how each communicate with the client. A similarity amongst all the branded content studios I interviewed was that clear labeling and disclosure was of utmost importance, meaning that sponsored content being labeled was a concern for all of the branded content studios. T-Brand Studio is the in-house branded content studio for the New York Times. They have a program manager that handles all client communication. They don't use bylines, and there's no crossover between the news and branded content staff. They are a very conservative branded content studio, holding themselves to the same standards that the host publication does. Disclaimers were on the header and footer of the sponsored content pieces, and it was meant to be experiential, reminding the reader throughout the piece from start to finish that it is sponsored. The Atlantic's Rethink branded studio is unique in that the sales team takes a very proactive approach and handles all client communication, using things like creative briefs and follow-up reports to maintain client relationships. California Polytechnic State University's Mustang Media Group stressed the importance of having business-minded and journalism-focused students, which was a trend amongst many of the other branded content studios. Mustang Media Group takes full advantage of digital, using things like quizzes, infographics, and analytics to send to their clients. Mustang Media Group was also one of the first to found sponsored content in student media. Kent State Student Media takes the spec ad approach, which is just creating the sponsored content in advance to approach clients with a physical sponsored content ad. I want to quickly scroll through an example from the T-Brand Studio. While keeping the consumers in mind, T-Brand Studio uses a mobile-friendly augmented reality feature to further engage with the consumers. So I'm scrolling through that augmented reality experience right now, and that's only available through the mobile app. This project had 1 million viewers in New York and Houston, which are 2 places featured in the project, and the mobile engagement was 38% above the benchmark. They also had 12,000 interactions with the mobile AR experience alone. T-Brand Studio is really forging the industry forward by expanding the possibilities of sponsored content beyond just digital and print content. And that's why I think it's really important to kind of scroll through that example. The third portion of my project was creating a list of recommendations for both future Cherry Creative leaders and those interested in implementing sponsored content into their newsroom. First, a little background on Cherry Creative. It was founded as a branded content studio in 2018 to increase advertising revenue for WKU student publications. Cherry Creative is a group of creative storytellers producing insightful media for businesses within the Bowling Green community. Cherry Creative is responsible for specialty publications inserted in the College Heights Herald and print and online sponsored content published through our partners, the WKU Herald and the Talisman. The pilot program increased sales by 297% with the first special section, or from $850 in 2017 to $3,880 in 2018. And Cherry Creative works very closely with the advertising team within WKU student publications. This is an example of one of our housing videos that we sold as an add-on to the clients already signed on to participate in the annual housing fair. Video is a service we added for our clients just this year. And the added value to these housing videos was the apartment complexes were given the video to use it for their own purposes, so posting it to their website or social media. And we managed to increase revenue for every special publication this year, except for the ones affected by COVID-19. And this example was published in our homecoming special section. This piece placed second in the College Media Business and Advertising Manager's Best Group Promotion category. Each bar that you see placed on this map paid $100 to be illustrated. And finally, moving on to those recommendations for future Cherry Creative leaders. I'm just going to highlight a few of them. Enforce the one publication staff only policy. This increases the credibility of the whole student publications department. It may also help young professionals not overcommit themselves, so allowing students to only work on Cherry Creative and no other publication within WKU student publications. Refrain from using bylines on sponsored content. This is to protect the writer and, again, protect the credibility of Cherry Creative as a professional entity if the individual were to ever write for competing brands. And create regular joint advertising and Cherry Creative staff meetings. Regular meetings with ad staff help streamline communication and get everyone acquainted with everyone. These staffs work very closely together, and the more that they're around each other, the easier it is to sell sponsored content. And this is a list of recommendations for implementation in student media as a whole. And I'm just going to touch a few. Determining scope, the easiest transition in taking over special sections for sponsored content. So if your newsroom is already creating special sections, that's going to be the easiest transition. The next best thing is online content because it's so easy to sell. It's trackable, you know exactly how successful it was, and that's where the students are consuming media anyway. As far as staff structure goes, keep it minimal. A director of some sort is necessary. An account manager or program manager position is also useful and necessary for best client communication, as seen in the T-Brand Studio and McKinley Avenue Agency. Although there is no end-all be-all best way for the creative process, the spec ad and mock-up approach are a great tool to use when approaching clients, since it has proved effective at Kent State Student Media and within Cherry Creative. It allows clients to visualize what they're buying from the beginning. Opportunity or creative briefs are also a great way to minimize the chance of miscommunicating a client's goals, and it gives the creative team a clear idea of what the client wants to accomplish with that sponsored content project. Finally, a program management system of some sort is beneficial in tracking and recording all sponsored content pieces in progress and completed, just something that everyone can access. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for tuning in to this project.